Do better today on Doop by the River. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking ahead at a midweek showdown, a little bit of a revenge. We're looking at Union versus Charlotte FC. And ladies and gentlemen, don't you dare go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Doop by the River. And let's get it started, guys. Done.
Doop by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Doop by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Doop by the River, I want to welcome everyone in, whether you're watching live on El Parcero Phillies YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more of your live viewings. Of course, we're live on the Twitter page. Make sure you guys follow on there as well. We're wherever you stream podcasts, we're available there as well. Find us under Doop by the River podcast. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be another quick one here today as we have two matches in 1 week, and we start off here with Charlotte FC. A lot to talk about, and we're going to get right on into it because today we are joined by our special friend calling the radio broadcast for Sports Radio WFNZ down in Charlotte. Our girl, you may know her on Twitter as Jess Talk Footy, but please welcome our girl, Miss Jess Charman. Jess, what's going on, girl? Welcome on back. How you feeling?
I am so excited to be back. I know the last time we talked, it went Philadelphia's way. We didn't chat before the time it went the other direction. This is a very big week for both teams. And I'm interested to see if the game's a little bit more balanced. Both games last season kind of swung one way. Maybe this one is more of an even pickings match. It's
a good point that you bring up there. And I know Charlotte's really excited to talk about that. We'll definitely get into it. We want to talk about Charlotte FC as well. But Jess, more importantly, yourself. How are you doing? You're killing it, girl. So let us know what's new with Jess this year.
Yeah, I mean, just being busy, staying busy with the Apple TV deal. I think it's been really exciting, actually, for local broadcast on the radio. I'm really glad that was an avenue that was protected and it's enabled us to be kind of like the official voices, no more competing with local TV. Our local TV guys were great. But it's nice to kind of be that featured persona that people connect with Charlotte FC. One of the most special things for me is during the matches, if you go to the toilet, if you go grab a beer, which is the best time to do it, you get to listen to us talking about the game. So it's been really good for my profile and being able to build that up. But yeah, it's also very helpful when your team's doing a lot better. Obviously, Charlotte sitting in 6 makes my job a whole world easier.
A lot more stuff to talk about, that's for sure. But I'm glad you did bring that up because that's one of the things I did want to talk about. Jess, I think you come from a really cool perspective. Obviously, England is the homeland of the sport, right? And here in America, we take entertainment to a whole nother level. Apple TV was a very big deal for our young league. You kind of have a different perspective as you do work in the radio. You know, here in Philadelphia, there's a lot of fans who do put on the Apple TV. They may have Dave Leno and Lisa Roman and mute the TV so they can listen to the radio broadcast here in Philly. But for you, from the radio perspective, what's your thoughts on Apple TV? Like, where can it improve upon? Just overall, how you feel about it?
Yeah, I think they've done a very good job in a lot of ways. A lot of the broadcast talent's obviously very exciting. I think MLS 360 is a great idea. Have they executed it perfectly? Not yet, but I think it's a great opportunity for them to keep building on it. I think the wrap-up show has a lot of potential. It reminds me a little bit of the show that made me fall in love with the game, which was Match of the Day, which is like a roundup show of the Premier League. I kind of wish they would focus on the individual games a little bit more. I think it feels a little bit rushed to me. I get that you've got to get through so many games, but at the same time, it feels like they kind of skip through so many talking points and try and push you towards MLS 360. Whereas if you're working or focusing on one game, you don't get that opportunity to have that deep breakdown. So for me, wrap-up show has a lot of potential, but I would love to see it almost be the extended highlights of the commentators and then have in-studio analysis to follow that bit where they talk about it. To me, it feels a little bit disorganized. So I think it's great ideas, but they've still got to work on the execution. But understandably so, let's be honest, it's very early days. But I think it's been good. The other part I like is knowing that people back home can listen to it. The fact that, or you know, wherever you are in the world, people in Colombia are listening to it. People in England are listening to it. You're growing the game and the respect for the game, which I actually think in flip side is going to help grow the talent that we're able to get. Because if you're a young player in Latin America or you're a young player in Europe, it's going to make a big difference knowing that your family and friends and people that support you can watch your games overseas as well.
One thing I did want to ask you, how do you feel kind of like about the matches being a little stagnant? Like, right, you have like 7:30. It's like all the matches are on Saturday. They're all going on. Like, do you think it should be spread a little more? Maybe like a couple Saturday afternoon matches. Saturday night?
I kind of miss those matinees. There was something kind of special about getting up early and calling those games. I think that all the games being together means that you don't get the same opportunity to do your recruiting as well. I miss being able to drive home from Charlotte on a Sunday and turn on the TV and watch 2 more games, those kind of things. I like the idea for the casual viewer, maybe, that kind of sets up their alarm for 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday to watch soccer, but gearing towards those soccer fanatics, you kind of miss that audience that wants to watch MLS from noon through midnight. You don't have that market anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. Like that's like why like I feel like the NFL and college football are so successful because it's like an all day thing. You can set the time, like the alarm, like you said. Just watch it all they through, gamble, hang out with friends, whatever it is, and just all the matches at once. It's just not. It doesn't. I don't think it gives the MLS the product that we all wanted to have. So it's definitely a very interesting point. But Jess, let's talk some Charlotte Football Club. Some of the changes this past offseason. What were some of the big changes from 2022 into 2023?
I think we saw a lot of players obviously leave. Daniel Rios is a player that's no longer with Charlotte. I know a lot of Philadelphia fans will be smiling about that one. Honestly, bar the game against you guys, his impact was pretty limited. That was a world-class performance individually from him. But I don't think, bar that memory of that game, too many people were worried about him leaving just because he wasn't able to have a consistent impact. Would be amiss not to briefly touch on Anton Walkes. Obviously, the tragedy of losing Anton Walkes in preseason affected Charlotte FC greatly, because I don't think there's a Charlotte FC fan who wouldn't say that Anton would have been starting in that back line this season. So I thought the club and the league handled that impeccably. There's not a blueprint on how to handle a tragedy like that, but I thought the club did a very good job of handling that adversity. And now we have that motivation of Anton's memory obviously coming into play. So that was obviously a tough time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all felt that here throughout the league. You know, the MLS community is so small, and when things like that happen, we all do feel that, and we felt it all throughout the league. It was absolutely wild.
And it's beautiful to see the love coming in from all directions, tifos, minute silences. Like I said, I think that was a moment where we witnessed the beauty of MLS as well, and the MLS fan base. So my gratitude goes out to everyone that reached out to me as well individually to check on that. So that was very important to me. The people bringing in that I think have made a huge difference. Ashley Westwood, obviously coming in with Premier League experience. He was one of those where a lot of people were questioning it. He's come into the twilight years of his career, was coming off a huge season-ending injury, but has come into MLS and really pulled the strings for Charlotte FC and been that ambition in midfield that I think they've needed to.
He's got the band, right?
Pardon?
He's got the captain's band as well.
Yes, yeah, which also, he got given the captain's armband. Not many people walk into a club and instantly get given the armband, but I think that shows his experience and just his leadership. I love watching him on the field. He's a player that has the composure you need in this league when you're dealing with terrible officiating and those kind of things.
Say that again.
Speaking of composure, Enzo Capetti, the big Argentine signing that we brought in, designated player, our third DP, along with Kamil Jozwiak and Karas Federski. He has been the most divisive player in the Charlotte FC history, I think. You have to take him with a grain of salt. He's a passionate guy. We love South American soccer. You know, I think we both have a respect for what South American soccer brings to the table. Some people maybe don't quite relate to that passion that turns into a little bit of frustration. Wears his heart on his sleeve. I think he has got 5 yellow cards already, probably 4 of those for dissent. So that tells you a lot about Enzo Capetti. I don't think we've seen the best of Enzo right now. Unfortunately, when you're a DP, a lot of people expect you to have goals straight away. And I understand that when you've got a price tag on you. I think he's the clear example of one of those players that needs to warm up to the league, though.
Hey, it always happens. You'd be surprised. It always does happen here. I'm really intrigued by Christian Lattanzio, your manager. Obviously, the interim tag gets removed. You go from Angel to Lattanzio. You know, what are some of the adjustments he has to make as now the full-time manager?
Yeah, I think it's so funny, right? No one would be a coach by choice when you look at how 1 minute you're a hero and 1 minute you're a villain. I think that a lot of people early on when we started the season were down 0-3 early on, pulling for his head right away. And now we're sitting in 6th and we're seeing the progress and we're seeing the development. We've always known he's a fantastic people person. He's always spoken about how he wants to nurture the players and help grow them. But at the same time, now as the head coach, you've got to be a bit more than that, right? You can't just be the guy that puts his arm around the shoulders of the players. You've got to be the guy that's also holding them accountable, that's bringing the most to the level, that's having to adjust tactically. Lattanzio Ball, stereotypically, wanted to be that possession-based soccer and wanted to be building out the back. We had a lot of self-inflicting goals early on in the season from trying that. I think we were almost forcing it a little bit too much. In recent games, we've seen a bit of an adjustment where we still want to play out the back, but there's more of a willingness and more of an empowerment in the players to go direct when necessary. And I think that's been one of Lattanzio's biggest growing points. Earlier on, maybe as an interim, and earlier on, maybe in the season, it felt like he was a little bit, I use the word stubborn in a loving way, but a little bit like set on how he wanted it to be. But you have to realize that you're not necessarily dealing with a side that every single player is comfortable playing that style of play. So the adjustment, I think, has had a huge role in our success. So I'm glad to see Lattanzio opening his mind a little bit and sort of just adjusting to what MLS throws at you.
Oh, it's definitely interesting here. I mean, listen, Jess, you know that Italian football, they're stubborn in their ways. It's kind of hard to steer away from that.
Oh, we're not very good defensively, which is a little bit concerning. I thought the stereotype of Italians was parking the bus and being very good defensively. And we have the second worst defense in the entire league.
There's a price you have to pay sometimes there. But it's interesting you mentioned about that back line. We'll have to take note of that for Saturday night's matchup here. But kind of, you mentioned a little bit of building from the back. Has anything else tactically changed with this club?
I would say you're seeing the pinched in fullbacks a lot more consistently, which has a lot of benefits when you have possession, having that extra number forward, but exposes a lot of space when your fullbacks are tucking in consistently. I think that we're playing more of like a 3-1 up top instead of a traditional 4-3-3. So more of one lone striker, which is good, but frustrating for those strikers if they're not getting the service. But I think the one thing we've kept consistently this season is trying to build out of the wings. I think we're looking at one of the highest crossing rates, highest balls into the 18. They want to build wide. Part of me wishes we could add a little bit more route one into our style of play because it's very predictable. It's always get the ball wide, cross it into the box, and that can work. But once it becomes extremely predictable, sides are able to adjust and defend it.
Well, luckily for us last Saturday, that Route 1 style worked a couple times against NYCFC. So we'll see how that does affect here against Charlotte for sure. But the wing battle will be interesting. I'm sure you've seen Olivier Mbaizo, Jess, and Olivier's the one piece that kind of worries us because although he can get up in the attack and create that width, getting back's been the problem. And he's been exploited at times for that. And we'll see how that affects if he does start as well. It's been a rotation to him and Harriel. So we'll see how that may affect the match on Saturday night as well. But let's move on to Daniel Rios here. It's funny, Jess, you realize that match had literally determined the supporter shield last year.
I know. And what a horrendous way to do it. Like, there's one thing losing. Okay, but here's how I feel about that one. It would have hurt for you guys if you had lost, but to lose from one player scoring 4 goals on you feels like the ultimate rubbing of salt into the wounds, right? Like, I don't know what would have been worse, like a 4-0 loss or a 1-0 dubious penalty in the 90th minute. Like, both are pretty terrible. Sorry, I'm not making many friends.
It's funny because like the scene was set. Like it was a Drury day in Charlotte. I think there was hurricane warnings that week, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, it was a Drury day. And then all of a sudden, this Daniel Rios. I had to Google Daniel Rios. Dude scoring a brace. I'm like, all right, this guy can't put more than that. He puts up 4 on us and literally beat us. That led to what happened. And it was funny, just as that Daniel gets moved on to Chivas, which is like even more of a high pressure club.
A huge signing. Like he was a very expensive signing. The front office team did an extremely good job, and that's not to disrespect Daniel, but we saw what he's capable of. But he's not been able to replicate that in Mexico. He's not been able to replicate that in MLS. He lacks the consistency, and he's one of those frustrating players that you have that has so much potential but can never fulfill it week in, week out, which is the difference between a good player and a great player, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think let's keep on to that consistent topic, because I think for a lot of Union fans, what I'm about to say is a little surprising, but Derek Jones has been consistently in your lineup.
I love Derek Jones.
That's crazy.
The development of Derek Jones has been incredible at Charlotte.
I'm happy for him.
I think it has been waiting to come. A lot of the MLS pundits that have been following DJ for a long time have said, like, this has been a breakout that's waiting for happen. I'm wondering if some of it has to do with just the trust and the faith that Lattanzio shows in him, right? I think sometimes players just need to know that they're trusted and given that responsibility to be able to play freely. And when DJ's playing for Charlotte, he has this charisma about him, this cooling personality, this composure, which to me indicates that he understands in himself that he's trusted and valued. And I'm wondering if coaching staff before that kind of saw him as like a half-assed piece of the puzzle that's kind of left on the side. And so he never was able to show that because he wasn't given those consistent minutes. Because I know he's played every position on the field across his time in MLS, but I think he's found his role in the Charlotte midfield. And to me, he's one of the few players in this lineup now that's become undroppable.
That's crazy. So for everyone back in Charlotte, just a little fun context for everybody. Derek Jones, homegrown product here in Philly. He got into a gym a little bit. And I think that a big part of Derek's development is maturity. I mean, he was a young kid at the time. And,
he still tweeted out some silly things. Like, the boy still acts like a child sometimes.
All right. Well, at least he's maturing on the pitch. That's the important part here. But there was a lot of bumping heads. There was rumors of him partying a little bit too much. Those are just rumors. I don't want to speculate too much. But what's funny is that before he left, he was competing in the midfield with none other than Brandon Aarons. And Brandon kind of stole that job away, and the rest is history, right? And Derek Jones got traded shortly after that. And it's funny seeing Derek, bounce from Nashville to now in Charlotte. And I'm just happy to see him stay consistent. Like, that's the important part. Like, everyone thinks, like, yeah, you want to get your homegrown products to be like Brandon Aronson or Mark McKenzie playing in Europe. But no, having guys stay consistently within the league and creating a career, that's important as well. You're just trying to sell it from any aspect you can when it comes to this youth academy that we got going on here.
I think it's so important with homegrowns. You just want them to represent your club and your academy well, right? I think you see it in Europe as well, where kids go through the academy and disappear at 18 years old, and they're never to be seen again in the seventh tier of English soccer. Like, they're playing in tiny venues in village teams as semi-pros. You don't want that. You want to be able to set your homegrowns up for a professional soccer career. And as long as you've done that, you're doing really well. And I think that's an element that Charlotte's done so well with their MLS Next Pro team. You're seeing is absolutely soaring. Their academy is playing into that. And we're now seeing MLS debuts from team players that are playing in that Crown Legacy side. And it's exciting when we look at teams like Philadelphia. We look at teams that have had that success with the academy. And that's a great blueprint. But it looks like Charlotte FC is getting off to a very good start with that homegrown path.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm not sure how familiar you are, but I'm actually glad Charlotte got a team, because for as long as I can remember, North Carolina was always a hotbed for soccer now in America. So it's good that Charlotte can take advantage of their own market, for sure. But let's look at your recent form. 4 wins, 2 losses over the last 6 in MLS play. I'm not bringing up US Open Cup. I'm not doing that to you, Jess. All right. But injuries have been injuries have been a little bit of a factor as well. But what have you noticed from this club in the last 6?
Yeah, I think we've been able to display more squad depth. When you see the level of injuries that we've had, I think a lot of people would have bitten your hand off if you'd have said that you would have got that many points and be sitting in 6th, because we've had an ever-rotating door in the back line, and anyone that is a defensive-minded player knows that consistency is very important. We played 3 different goalkeepers already this season. 1 minute we have fit, high level of competition wingers, and then we lose everybody. So to be able to ride that storm has been amazing. I think one of the key players that's come out during this form is Justin Merrim. Who would have expected Justin Merrim at this stage of his career? I think a lot of people laughed when they saw that trade and thought, what's Charlotte doing? But we've seen a renaissance again of Justin Merrim, and he's looking to be more of that Justin Merrim that I witnessed in my Atlanta days.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what he had in him from enjoying him as a player in Atlanta. But when you have that many years between then and then, you don't necessarily expect him to come out. But he has been the player that Charlotte FC didn't know they needed.
You know what he kind of reminds me of? A little bit like Kai Kamara, in the sense where a little bit of an MLS journeyman, but you know what you're going to get. And it's a good signing. It's good for the dressing room, and he's going to produce as well. And I think that's always a solid signing to get when you can get Miriam on your team.
And we needed the MLS experience as well. When you look at our side, a lot of young players, a lot of non-MLS players. You've got Harrison Orful, obviously, that people know about from MLS. But other than that, you're lacking a lot of MLS years in the boots. So to have that knowledge of the league is very important as well, because you forget what an anomaly is in terms of MLS when you're coming from other countries. It's just, there's no other league like it. It's special. I love it, but it's different.
It's different. It's definitely different. That's for sure. Jess, have you watched the Union over the past couple of matches?
I haven't done my digging yet. I have been doing my prep. I cannot believe Gazdag has scored 6 out of 6 penalties this season. How are you getting 6 penalties? I was like pulling the numbers. I need to do my watching of the match, but I've been pulling my numbers. How have you earned 6 penalties?
Well, first off, Julian Carranza is Argentinian, so
is he selling it? Is he selling it well? Because
we
and he can't buy a penalty right now.
Listen, don't. If you're in the box defending Carranza, don't even look at him, because the minute you just like slightest bit of just like a whoop, and he's gone the ground. Which, listen, I can I be mad at that? No. Would I not want to see it? Not as much as we do, but we're getting goals and we are winning.
It's part of the game, right?
Yeah, it is. But even to that, we were struggling in the beginning part of the year to put goals, but their confidence is starting to come about. They destroyed New England, NYCFC. They took dismantle it as well. So summer's getting here. It's getting warmer. When it gets warmer, they seem to always, ever since Jim's been here, they always seem to be playing better in the warm weather. I'm sorry. So we'll see if it can continue against Charlotte. Will it be another one of those Rios matches? Someone out of nowhere just steps up. I don't know.
Maybe it's the day Derek Jones starts. Can you imagine?
I want him to do it, but then I want him to score a goal and then go right up to Jim and do the Messi, hold the jersey.
He would celebrate, right? He's not going to do the Justin Merrim praying hands. He's more of a Joseph Martinez.
Yeah. That'd be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. But let's look at this Charlotte squad Saturday. What could the potential lineup look like for you guys?
I think you're obviously going to have Kalina back in goal, who was the goalkeeper ever present last season, apart from at the end of the season where he had a back injury. Defensively, we're looking like we're getting Corujo back, which is going to be huge. The Uruguayan defender that was ever present last season, coming back from an ACL tear. Will they give him the start? Not 100%. He hasn't actually featured in MLS yet. He's just played 60 minutes with our second team. Be great to have him back for the experience. But again, I go back to that ever-changing back line. Do you really want to change it? So we're going to play 4 at the back, whether it's Tuiloma and Malanda. Malanda, a young product, 21 years of age, but has been ever present for us this line. He's had 5 or 6 different centre-back partners this season. So when you're saying these numbers, absolutely wild. It's kind of concerning that we've had to rotate our back line. Derek Jones has played centre-back. Did you know that?
Not surprised.
So fullbacks, you're looking at Harrison Orful, but I don't know if Orful's going to be ready. He got kind of walked off with his old age, exhausted at the end of the game. So that's a bit of a concern. You've got youngster like Jalen Lindsay that's probably going to play fullback. Nathan Byrne, the Englishman that spent time in Derby. Midfield should be, in my opinion, Derek Jones, Ashley Westwood, and Karos Swiderski, which obviously Swiderski, everyone thought he was an attacker, but he plays best as a number 10, in my opinion, because he's getting the ball. Derek will hold. Ashley Westwood will distribute, and Karos Swiderski will be the playmaker. And then up top, you've got Enzo Capetti coming back in, who is an Argentine that maybe feels a little bit more like your Argentine, likes to go down a little bit too easily. The difference is Enzo Capetti has not made many friends with the officiating crews in MLS. And I think because of the bitching and moaning after the fouls, he's kind of got that reputation of the boy who cried wolf, and now they don't want to give calls against him. But if he earns a penalty, it'll be the first penalty that he's earned all season. So that will be crazy. And then wingers, you've obviously got Justin Merrim. And then I don't think Kamil Juzwiak's going to be back from injury yet. So you're getting away with that, because Juzwiak was probably one of the most highly criticized DPs in the league about his ability. But now he's starting to come good, got an injury. But you will see a Colombian potentially in Kelvin Vargas. That kid is good, man. Kelvin is so dang good. He's got that saucy Latino flair, like confidence, a little bit of arrogance. I'm a big Kelvin Vargas fan.
Real quick, is your husband going crazy over the under-20 World Cup like me?
No, not yet. No, he's too busy. He's not following it as much.
I put it on Saturday. I put on the last group stage match, Colombia versus Senegal, and everyone in my fiance's family was like, "What is wrong with you?" I was like, "Guys, this is under 20. You don't understand. It's a very big deal in Colombia. All right, we're all."
It is so important with how it means for the futures. You know what I mean? It's exciting to see these products. It's amazing to think about the level that they're going to potentially be at in 4 years' time.
But even like here in America, I feel like they're like the diehard American fans are sitting on their phone watching it. No, in Colombia, everywhere you go, it's like a big match.
Well, think about the women's. You remember Women's Copa America?
Yeah.
How crazy that was in Colombia during the Copa. That was insane.
Yeah. So we're I'm invested in the under 20 World Cups here in Argentina, but let's get to some predictions here, Jess. What do you think will happen this upcoming Saturday night between Charlotte's FC and the Philadelphia Union?
Okay, I would take a draw. I would definitely run away with a draw. I would like a 1-1 draw because I don't think we're going to keep a clean sheet. I think you guys will catch us on a long direct ball. We've not been great at defending those quick counterattacks, but I think we'll be able to break you down for a goal. So let's go with a 1-1 draw. I would run away with it because Philly's not an easy place to go play.
That's for sure. And
I mean, insane.
Like
you've not lost since April, right? In MLS.
I think we did win. I think we did lose one this year. I'm just blanking on which. So many soccer matches this year for the Union. I'm like losing track on every single one of them.
Lost in April, though, like early April in MLS.
Yeah. That definitely does sound about right. But no, it should be a lot of fun on Saturday, and anything can happen in this league, but this team is definitely riding high. I'm curious to see if your British mate Jack Elliott has another long ball that gets to Julian Carranza like last Saturday, but it should be fun, Jess. We got to get you up here one of these games. We got to get the booth for Charlotte here too.
Oh, don't get me started on that. One day they'll let us go to the games. I'm like, part of the job is meant to be exploring the stadium, you know?
Yeah.
We'll get there in the end. I'll just call it off the TV for this week.
Well, hey, listen, you guys know where to find Jess. Jess, to give everyone a reminder, where people can find you, where people can listen to you on game day, all the above.
Yeah, so it's Jess Talks Footy on social media, Instagram and Twitter. We are on the WFNZ radio app during games. And if it's a home game for Charlotte FC, you can also on Apple TV select languages and local radio, which is an awesome feature that syncs it up with the broadcast. So you can see the TV broadcast with the radio. So really cool that they're doing that.
I'm gonna have to try to do that. And you know what? I love Dave. Dave's my man. But listen, Jess is on. All right, I might have to listen to Jess for this broadcast here. All right, I'm just saying, guys. I'm just saying. But ladies and gentlemen, please give a big thank you to Jess. Jess, seriously, thank you for all the insight on Charlotte. Make sure you guys follow her, check her out. Make sure you guys follow us and subscribe to us here to keep you up to date with everything Philadelphia. But ladies and gentlemen, that is Jessics Charman. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys, DOOP on.